Cheap prices feel like winning. Every time you click buy now, it feels like you beat the system.
Simply unbeatable prices.
This new website.
You didn't overpay, you didn't hesitate, and you moved on.
I can't tell you how many people I've seen raving about the cheap tech you can get on this site. It's cheaper than Amazon.
But nothing in retail gets cheaper without someone losing power. And the uncomfortable part of this is that loss doesn't show up on your receipt. It shows up later, somewhere else, in ways that are easy to ignore, until they aren't. Because low prices don't just save money, they decide which businesses survive and which ones shrink and which ones disappear quietly. This isn't about one company, and it's not about bad intentions. It's about a system that rewards the cheapest possible outcome, even when that outcome slowly removes everything else. And yes, this system only works because we participate in it. Cheap prices feel like freedom. More options, more sellers, and more control. Every interface tells the same story. You compare, you choose, and you win. But price doesn't just reflect value, it shapes behavior. When prices drop far enough, thinking stops being deliberate. You don't ask if something will last, you don't ask who made it, you don't ask what happens if it breaks, you ask one question: why not? Low prices remove friction, and friction is the only thing that forces a system to slow down. At scale, cheap prices doesn't empower consumers, it trains them. To expect immediacy and to reward speed and to tolerate disposability. Not because consumers are careless, but because the system is designed to reward the fastest decisions and not the best one. Price competition sounds fair, until you look at who can survive it. The moment one player goes lower than the cost, everyone else faces the same choice. Match the price and bleed, or refuse and vanish. This is not competition, it's attrition. Large platforms can't afford years of losses. Small retailers can't afford quarters. So low prices stop being a signal of efficiency. They become a test of endurance. Who can last the longest without profit? And who can operate at scale while everyone else burns out? From the outside, it looks like generosity. From the inside, it's leverage. And once prices become the battlefield, everything else stops mattering. Quality doesn't help if customers never see it. Service doesn't help if margins are gone. Brand doesn't help if discovery disappears. Scale changes what's possible. At massive volume, risk dissolves. A failed product doesn't matter if 1,000 succeed. A return doesn't hurt if it's average across millions. A supplier can be replaced instantly. Scale absorbs mistakes. Small businesses don't have that luxury. They have inventory risk, fixed rent, and human labor. Even if they're better, they're slower, more expensive, and easier to bypass. So over time, quality stops being rewarded. Consistency does. And consistency at low prices only exists at scale. This is why retail doesn't get worse, all at once it gets thinner. Less variety, more sameness, and fewer reasons to stand out. Every purchase teaches the platform something: what you clicked, what you skipped, and what price broke your resistance. Platforms don't just sell products, they observe behavior. That data feeds recommendations. Recommendations shape demand. Demand justifies more skill. It's a closed loop. Now imagine a small retailer inside that system. They don't see platform-wide trends. They don't see cross-category behavior. They don't know why traffic vanished overnight. They just see fewer sales. That platform learns faster, optimizes faster, adjusts pricing faster. Not because it's smarter, but because it sees everything. That data turns low prices into momentum. And momentum compounds. The loss doesn't feel dramatic, it feels gradual. A brand you like stops restocking. A store you trusted close quietly. Categories start looking identical. At first, nothing feels wrong. Prices are still low, delivery is still fast, but by the time consumers noticed fewer options, the system has already settled. What remains isn't monopoly, it's dependency. You can still buy things, you just can't choose where they come from. And when choice disappears, pricing stops being generous, it becomes tragic. This pattern isn't new. Different names, different countries, same outcome. Because the incentives are always the same. Scale beats resilience, speed beats sustainability, price beats presence. Any platform large enough will be pushed towards the same logic. Not because of greed, but because the math demands it. Low prices are not a side effect, they're the entry point. Once dependency forms, everything else follows. For most people, participating in this system isn't ignorance, it's rational. Cheap prices don't just feel good, they solve real problems. Limited time, limited income, and limited attention. When everything is expensive, low prices feel like relief. Opting out sounds moral in theory, but irrational in practice, because the system doesn't offer an alternative path. You can slow down without falling behind. You can't pay more everywhere. You can't research every purchase. So people adapt. They choose convenience over conviction. Price over principle. Not because they don't care, but because caring is expensive. This is how systems maintain control. Not by forcing participation, but by making non-participation impractical. By the time the trade-offs became visible, the habits are already locked in. Here is the final shift. Most people don't notice. At a certain scale, platforms stop competing for customers. They become the default. Search starts here. Comparison happens there. Expectations are set there. Leaving doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like friction. Slower delivery, higher prices, and less certainty. Even if alternatives exist, they feel like acceptations to the system, not replacements. This is when power becomes invisible, not because it hides, but because it blends into the routine. The system doesn't need loyalty. It only needs inertia, and inertia is incredibly stable. There's one final misunderstanding that keeps the system invisible. People think price is neutral, a number, a discount, and a deal. But price is not just what you pay, it's a signal. It tells producers how fast to move. It tells platforms what to prioritize. It tells markets what is allowed to survive. When the signal is always lower, everything else adapts around it. Supply chains stretch thinner, products become interchangeable, relationships disappear. Nothing about this requires bad actors. No conspiracy and no single decision. Just millions of small responses to the same signal. Lower, faster, cheaper. And once a price becomes the dominant signal, every other value becomes noise. Cheap prices didn't make a retail more efficient. They made it dependent. They depended on skill, they depended on data, and depended on systems that can operate without margins, without relationships, and without exit. Nothing broke overnight. Nothing collapsed. The systems work exactly as designed. You didn't lose choice all at once. You lost it gradually, one deal at a time. And once a system reaches this point, it doesn't reverse, it doesn't apologize, and it doesn't stop. It shifts.
Amazon has a huge advantage over its competitors because it runs the marketplace.
Website.